And we are live. Hey, we talked about doing an intro song at our last podcast, and we haven't recorded one yet. Will, I know you play the spoons
and the banjo,
and Paul, if I remember correctly, you're a flautist, right? A flutist. So maybe you guys can put something together for the next.
What kind of banjo do you play?
Yeah. Okay.
Or we could use Gen AI and one of the Funzy apps to do it as well.
We need human touch, baby. Human touch. If not, I'm just going to do like an a cappella kind of intro. Just me singing for 35 seconds or 40 seconds.
Well, you know, Rick Springfield sang a song back in the 80s called Human Touch. Now I'm going to have to go download it on iTunes.
Yeah, no, don't do that. Or listeners, do not do that.
Well, what kind of banjo do you play?
Something that my wife's doctor gave her. I just strum it. I'm not good.
This is going down the wrong path. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Moor Insights Strategy Data Center Podcast. We have from right to left, as I'm looking at the screen, Will Townsend, the security and telecom and UT fan extraordinaire, analyst and UT fan extraordinaire. We have Mr. Paul Smith Goodson, the father of quantum computing and RF signal manipulation. And in the middle, can you wave to the crowd, Paul, or are your hands still tied down? Okay, good. And I'm Matt Kimball, and I don't specialize in anything. Hey, this is episode 35 of our podcast. Before we get into anything, got to throw out a couple of housekeeping notes. Don't take anything we say as investment advice. We say this every podcast because it's so important, because we're so not bright. Don't take anything we say as advice to go drain your life savings and throw into one company or another as far as investment purposes go. Not a good idea. The other thing is, while we are giving opinions, this is kind of entertainment, believe it or not, and it should be taken as such. So got to get those disclaimers out. But we are a mighty bunch of analysts that have spent a lot of time in industry, and we have some interesting takes. So stick around for what we have to say. We are on episode 35, believe it or not. 35, interesting number, because it is the product of two prime numbers, 5 times 7. Thought that was an interesting little fact about the number 35. Well, you might like that, Will. You're probably still trying to figure out what a prime number is.
I didn't do well in math.
I'm kidding. We have a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about Extreme Networks, OpenAI, Oracle, Microsoft, IonQ, and Dell. Lots of really good topics. We're going to fly through these, and then we have a final kind of getting to know us segment that we're going to hit on, which you can probably tell by what two of my colleagues are wearing today. But let's jump right in. We're going to start with Will. Will, you want to talk about Extreme Networks, I believe. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir. To quote Johnny Carson's sidekick, I just dated my age there, Ed McMahon. But I want to talk about Extreme Networks. So it's an interesting company, a company built basically on acquisition. And the company has been very focused on delivering connectivity and security solutions for sporting venues. And they've sort of been a second fiddle to the big companies out there like Cisco and HPE, Arista, others. But entering the new year, I do believe they can vie for market share. And it may have gotten lost in the holiday hustle and bustle, but on December 9th, the company announced something that they're calling Extreme Platform One. Now, let me backtrack just for a second. This is the Data Center Podcast, and Extreme does have a compelling set of data center solutions. They have a fabric. They have a lot of different things that support data center workloads. But again, they've been sort of second fiddle to others. But with Platform One, they intend to really lean very, very aggressively into AI. they hope to do a number of different things, and I'm looking at the press release right now. Unify experiences, cross-team workflows via one composable workspace, deliver deep automation powered by AI, radically simplify licensing as well. And the latter point is an important point because many of their competitors have been doing the same. Cisco recently completely revamped what they're doing from a licensing perspective. I expect more synergies to come from Cisco in the new year, as Jeetu Patel is now the Chief Product Officer in leading both networking and security for the company. But for me, it seems like there wasn't like an anchor point like they have now with Platform One to really vie for market share and be a legitimate contender. So from my perspective, I do believe they can vie for market share this year. I have been invited to an analyst summit. They haven't done a lot of those in the past, but they have some new analyst relations leadership. I'll do a little quick shout out to Ben Culp, and I'll be spending time with them in the month of May in Paris, France. So not a bad place to have a conference there, but I hope to learn more. Now, when they made the announcement, it was pretty forward looking. They're not expecting to roll this out until the second half of this year. Mm-hmm. So I don't have a lot of specifics other than I think this positions them well. So I don't know, Matt. Do you know anything about Extreme?
From some time back, but let me ask you this question, and maybe it's too early to answer, but kind of given the presence of the Ciscos and the HPE and soon to be HPE Juniper and kind of the giants out there, and then the move of open, kind of open source technologies as well. How do you see Extreme kind of creating a niche, right? Because I like what you say, like AI-driven automation, simplified licensing, kind of focus on the user-centric design. Those are great, but a lot of companies talk about those.
It's me too. Yeah, you make a good point. Yeah.
How do you see Extreme, like kind of, do they use that kind of sports angle, as you mentioned, that was their niche, and expand from that? Or do you see them kind of finding other ways to differentiate from everybody else?
Well, that's a great question. And I do see them kind of doing a land and expand when it comes to their footprint within sports, but they don't have a lot of custom, silicon, at their disposal. With HPE and Juniper coming together, Juniper is going to bring some of that to HPE, and certainly with Cisco, they have Silicon One. That tends to reside at the higher end of their infrastructure stacks, and it's beginning to push down a little bit there. Mm-hmm. From my perspective, and it's too early to tell, right? Because I've spent a little bit of time with the company, but I do believe that they deploy a lot of Broadcom, right? Mm-hmm. So they would be really smart and wise to really focus on licensing. And if they can do a better job than their competitors, that could be an opportunity for them. Yeah. And then also a focus on their channel sales and channel marketing efforts, because all of these companies are channel led, and that I think is an opportunity. Now, I don't think they necessarily need to be the low cost leader. When you kind of look at security as an example, and you look at what Fortinet has done to they've got great functionality, but they've sort of been the value play. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing negative with that. No. And that could be possibly a route to market for Extreme. But what they were really missing from my perspective was something like Platform One, where they could really sort of hang their hat. Time will tell if it's truly differentiated, because to your point, AI ops is sort of table stakes with all of these companies. Yeah. And I'll actually be spending time with Cisco next week they're doing their first AI summit. It's an action-packed agenda on January 15th, and that might be the subject of a future podcast. But yeah, I think they finally got something they can hang their hat on, and I think land and expand, and potentially really focusing on the channel and fine-tuning that licensing. And at the end of the day, customers want flexibility, they want choice. Sometimes it's used from sort of a procurement perspective, right? To leverage, cost synergies and that sort of thing when you're looking at a tender or something like that. But I think they're finally well positioned to make a real run at it. So time will tell.
Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
And I don't
It's not too hard.
Trust me, there's not a question I can ask that is difficult. That is not who I am. From a portfolio perspective, it seems like there's a big move toward as a service with all these companies, right? Did Extreme in their platform one talk about anything as a service, or is that just a given at this point? I'm not really sure, kind of on the networking side how that works.
Not specifically, but certainly, it's sort of, again, table stakes. The jury is sort of still out on networking as a service, just given the fairly low adoption there. But it's a given. I mean, it's sort of table stakes these days. So
got it. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Paul. I didn't mean to steal your time or asking questions. So if you want to jump in, feel free to. Or offer commentary. Or if you want to come off mute, you can do that as well.
Looking at, enterprises got data stored all over the place, silos and everything. It takes a lot of work and changes to move from that infrastructure into one where you've got consolidated data. It works out good for AI, but it's a lot of work. How do you see that coming along?
Not sure I'm following your question there, Paul.
Just trying, the work that goes into trying to consolidate data, in one platform. It's a lot of work, and
I think part of if I'm reading between the lines with platform one, I mean that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to consolidate.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, and obviously, data consolidation is important too. There's nothing specifically that sort of addresses that within the press release, but I just think I'll be learning more in May, so I'll have
Can't
to
wait.
Yeah.
Well, for AI, and the other thing that you have to worry about when you start consolidating data like that is that security and compliance with different regulations and everything. So.
Right. Yeah. No, certainly.
Well, hopefully in May you'll come back and you'll give us a briefing in French.
And I'll wear a beret as well.
Burnt orange beret?
Yes.
Here we go. Hey, moving on to the next really exciting topic. I think this is our dear friend Paul. We're talking about, do we really know how to do it? And I'm thinking this might be OpenAI related, Paul?
Yeah, you're right. Sam Altman just published on his personal blog some really interesting comments. And he's talking about achieving AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is like human level, in 2025. And he's talking about doing it using agents. So he might be able to do it using agents, but it's not really a true form of AGI. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. He had a lot of personal comments and information in the blog too. He talked about how the company was transformed from a small research lab into basically a giant AI company. Mm-hmm. And I mean, ChatGPT was released back in November of 2022. It seems like a lot longer than that when you look at all the changes that happened to AI in those basically 2 short years. In a blog, he also talked about some of his personal feelings about when he got fired because of there's some government issues that he didn't take care of, and he understands that. But it was a good personal look at how he feels about different things. He's talking about kind of turning his focus from AGI to super intelligence, which is a long way off. I mean, it could be 2 decades or more, or maybe not ever. because of things that have to be done for super intelligence. I think AGI, true AGI, is probably a little further off than 2025, but we'll see how he does. I put the link to his blog on the show notes, so if someone's interested in it. It's about a page long, but it's really got some interesting information and some insights about how he feels about things. So,
Hey, Paul, for the sake of our audience, can you, and for me, quite frankly, can you kind of put a little bit more of a bounding box around AGI versus superintelligence? I mean, what exactly is meant by AGI and what is meant by superintelligence? Because I think to a lot of people, they think in terms of AI and generative AI, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
AGI is artificial general intelligence, and that's AI that's got human level intelligence, like reasoning and things like that.
Okay.
And we're a little further off from AI having the ability to reason in the way that we reason. It can reason by elimination and that type of thing, but real reasoning, like human reasoning, I think we're a little further off than that. But that's artificial general intelligence. And superintelligence is like AI that can do things way beyond a human level.
Got it. Okay.
Create materials, get amazing insights on things that we didn't even have an idea were there.
For what it's worth, I think any implementation of AI that wants to track my human reasoning, I think it was achieved many years ago. For what it's worth, I'm just gonna throw that out there. Can you? Hey, kind of. Go ahead. Sorry.
Superintelligence will have like kind of a consciousness even, being aware of social issues and that type of. I mean, all encompassing type of AI.
So is the supercomputing more of, when we talk about sentience, is that more along the lines of, not supercomputing, superintelligence? Is that what you're aligned to? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, as a quick tangent, and I don't mean to, but I'm kind of curious, at CES this week, Jensen, Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, was up and talking about quantum computing being decades off, and the world is really just about AI for the next few decades. Quick thoughts on that? I mean, is he really just kind of trying to push what NVIDIA has to sell today, or is that?
Well, he crushed a lot of the associated stocks in quantum as well, right?
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah, quantum is not that far off. I mean, now we're able to do useful things. They're coming along with error correction now and building up logical qubits. I mean, we're still a few years off for having full capability with AI, but the future is going to be quantum computing, AI, and HPE.
Yeah.
That's going to be, that's probably the way it's going to be. There's going to be some isolated quantum applications, but I would say, another 5 years.
Okay. Yeah. So
I guess 5 to 7 years.
you heard it here first. 5 to 7 years. Quantum computing is mainstream, and we'll be carrying quantum computers around in our pockets from Paul Smith Goodson. Or not. All right. Interesting conversation. Let's jump into topic 3, which is my dear friends at Oracle. They seem to be a constant on our podcast, but they released their Exadata X11M. That sounds very futuristic. Database platform, or database machine, I should say, earlier this week. Really quick, Exadata is a combination of it's a bespoke hardware platform. So things they do in hardware, and this goes all the way back to when they acquired Sun Microsystems back in 2008 or 2010. I forget what year. I think 2008. In tunings they made to hardware along the line and the Oracle database platform sitting on top of it, and modifications or integrations they've made between the database and the actual hardware to accelerate performance, scale, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been going on. They're on their 11th generation. Really big on AI vector search, surprise, surprise. Really big on multi-cloud, surprise, surprise. Really big on OLTP and analytics. Also, not a lot of a surprise there, right? This is what I think is really interesting about what Oracle is doing with Exadata and in general. I think people tend to forget this a little bit. Oracle is in, I think it's 97% of the Fortune 500 companies. They have a database presence. Now, when you take into account everything Oracle does through middleware, through their tools, through their cloud presence, it's probably 100%. Oracle has 100% of a footprint in Fortune 500. But even on the database side, they've been around for generations, let's say decades, right? And all of that really mission critical and business critical data that sits inside of an enterprise and that enterprise organizations want to use to operationalize AI, guess what? It's all on Oracle platforms. Not all, but I mean, the large majority of it, the vast majority of it sits within Oracle platforms. There is a huge opportunity for Oracle to really, you hear this term data platform all over the place when it comes to AI. Oracle undoubtedly, especially with 11M, X11M, is the data platform for the enterprise. And I don't mean this lightly, and I don't mean this kind of in some hyperbolic way, but they really do own the enterprise data platform market. And what they're doing to quickly turn that data into AI insights, into analytics insights, into greater and non-AI related kind of support is phenomenal. Nothing short of phenomenal. And the fact that they're doing this and then they're enabling the ability to for companies to use this in any cloud as a native service of that cloud, whether it's AWS, Azure, GCP, or OCI, is even cooler. So really excited about what they're doing. I'm kind of curious about how enterprise looks at this from the perspective of multi-cloud, and whether kind of the full, there's a challenge with being around forever, and that is sometimes you're looked at as legacy and not as kind of the next great thing.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I see this and I go, man, there's so much potential for me as an IT person within enterprise. I'm curious as to whether that kind of rebranding, if you will, and repositioning of Oracle and a data platform is landing with enterprises. Anyway, that's my preamble. Leave it open for y'all to comment and ask any questions you might have.
I'll jump in, Matt. So I agree with you. I think when people think of Oracle, they think of legacy, right?
Yeah.
From your perspective, and I haven't, I don't follow them as closely as you do, but from your perspective, have they seen any benefit from sort of the Gen AI gold rush? I mean, have they seen their stock lift like Broadcom and Marvell, and I just mentioned two silicon providers, but there are scores of other companies that I could mention. Are they getting credit for your insight here?
Yeah, they've had a lot of success over the last couple of years. I mean, the stock price has been very strong. The stock performance has been very strong. Again, do not use this as advice.
Right.
Stock performance has been very strong. A lot of that's been fueled by the growth of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI.
Yeah.
As part of that equation. But they've done things within their database platforms to really move it away from and shift capabilities from kind of core, ODBC kind of compliant database platforms that do OLTP and OLAP to broader data platforms that do everything from SQL to NoSQL, JSON, graph databases, columnar database. It doesn't matter what database type you have to be the database platform of choice, regardless of what that data looks like, structured, unstructured, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
They've done a great job of building all of these capabilities. And what I like about them is there's a messaging discipline they have and a comms discipline they have that just kind of continuously drills this at a technical level and at a kind of consumerish level across the marketplace to kind of drive that and to try and drive the shift in perception.
Yeah.
I've seen it. From a performance and capabilities perspective, you really can't match the capabilities of what's in Oracle Database 23 AI or Autonomous Database. You really cannot. There's nothing out there that even comes close to touching it.
Okay.
Their continued challenge that they seem to be addressing is that move from, hey, that's the database my grandfather used,
Yeah.
to, this is the database of choice for the new developer community that kind of is open everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is, says to hell with SQL, we're going NoSQL, right?
Yeah.
That's their challenge, but they seem to be kind of relentless in driving that message across that they are the platform of choice for the old and the new.
Yeah. And I think Teradata struggles with that as well, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, they all do, right? It's funny. I mean, when you think back, right, to to kind of, if you've been around for a while, right, from Oracle, Teradata, Sybase, my gosh, Microsoft SQL Server. Who talk about Microsoft SQL Server anymore, right? Microsoft Access, right? I don't mean that in a negative way, but it's like, they just Postgres. You just don't hear about these database platforms being used anymore, which is brilliant for what Oracle's done, because there's an understanding that what you had before in SQL servers, SQL structured servers, and what you're building in NoSQL, all of that data needs to work together and come together to deliver value to the enterprise.
Yeah.
So, I damn well want to get that all into a single platform. And that's what Autonomous Database is about. That's what 23 AI is about. That's what Oracle is delivering. So, sorry, way too far.
It had a lot of benefits, but I suspect there's going to be a learning curve, some resistance to the adoption, and especially in organizations, they've got a lot of legacy systems.
Yeah, you're right. I think with Exadata in particular, that's a platform that, I talked about 97% footprint in Fortune 500. Exadata as a hardware software, kind of, they call it the database machine. That is, I think it's an 87% or roughly 90% of the Fortune 100. So the bigger companies get it, right, and get the value of it, especially when you're talking about like OLTP at scale, right? If I need to do e-commerce at scale, or trading at scale, it's a big deal. It's kind of coming down market and finding a place down market that is always a challenge for the big enterprise companies, and it'll be fun to watch them. But anyway, I don't want to belabor this with another 45-minute speech on what Oracle's doing, so I'm going to move on. And I think we're hitting on Will next. Is that right, Will?
I believe so.
With Microsoft, is that right?
Yeah. So, it's the beginning of the year, and so the news cycle is somewhat slow for my coverage area. So I picked this topic as something for the three of us to riff on, because it was announced at the beginning of the year that Microsoft's going to invest $80 billion in building AI data centers this year. And I mean, that's a huge number.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of makes you wonder, like, where are they coming up with all of this cash, right, to do this? I mean, certainly Microsoft's a huge company, and their market cap is much larger than that. But I just wanted to pick this topic and just sort of riff on it. I mean, from my perspective, there's going to be a lot of connectivity that's going to kind of go into the mix here. But Matt, maybe start with you. I mean, from a compute and a storage perspective, I mean, this is a huge investment, right?
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I was drinking coffee. It's incredibly huge. Yeah, $80 billion, from even in Austin Powers terms, is is a lot of money. And Microsoft has done a lot in terms of custom silicon design for connectivity, for compute, for security, for AI acceleration, right? So they have Cobalt, which is their underlying ARM-based CPU that they designed. They have Maya, which is their, right now it's more of an inference. They would tell you it's training and inference, but really it's targeting more inference right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's growing into a training accelerator as well, just like Graviton did, or just like Trainium did with, and Inferentia did with AWS. They have HSM for security, and they have a whole bunch of connectivity silicon, custom silicon they've designed and deployed across Azure. To me, this speaks to, you don't make an investment without understanding where your return on that investment is coming from.
Yeah.
And you don't, especially when you're a company that is as accountable as Microsoft and as successful as Microsoft. So we go, that's an $80 billion investment. Oh my gosh, that is crazy, right?
Yeah.
Imagine, I would love to see the spreadsheets they have that show what they project the return on that $80 billion to be over the next 5 to 10 years.
Right.
Well, did you see when Trump had his buddy up talking about he's going to invest $200 billion in data centers in the U.S.?
Who was his buddy? Elon or somebody else?
I don't remember.
Okay.
No, it
Yeah.
wasn't Elon.
Somebody else.
I'm sure it was Elon. Yeah.
There's a reason for that, though, right, Paul? I mean, you don't make these investments in a kind of rash or kind of willy-nilly fashion, right? I mean, you have clear line of sight as to how you're going to recoup and then build on that investment you made.
Well, if you look at the projections on AI and power requirements, I mean, we can put $300 billion into the power, but we may end up being short.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it could be $1 trillion TAM,
Yeah. I think to what you're asking, Will, I think there is a huge return that they're seeing. And if you look at a world where everything is driven through, in an autonomous fashion, and whether it's I'm a business with my applications kind of just running in an agentic and kind of automated fashion, or it's my everyday life, right? The way we're looking at this is AI drives the world, right?
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, you go, okay, that kind of makes sense that they would be doing this, right? Not only does it make sense, I'm sure every other CSP is kind of looking at the world this way as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know if that's where you're going, or if I just kind of went off on a tangent.
No, it's perfect. And Paul, I'm glad Paul weighed in on sort of the market opportunity as well, because it is huge. And, I think for the naysayers in Wall Street, the bubble bears, whatever you want to call them, AI is beginning, to make an impact. And another thing that happened there was lots of news with NVIDIA at CES, but I wanted to bring this up as well. What do y'all think of this $3,000 personal super computer with a Blackwell derivative? Does that drive the scale beyond the hyperscalers and drive NVIDIA stock price up?
So this is, sorry, Paul, you want to go first? I didn't mean to jump in.
No.
I'll go quick. So Digits is interesting, right? Think of it as a supercomputer workstation. It's designed for developers and data scientists to work within AI. That's what this thing is. It's a 20 core. I think it's got 20 ARM cores in it. I forget what it's got for tensor cores. but it's a, it's a derivative of Grace Blackwell, but it's to be used by individuals. It's a Linux-based workstation, and it's got crazy amount of computational power. The first question I ask, I think it's got a lot of potential within the data center, and you wonder if maybe this is kind of the back door to NVIDIA introducing clients into the enterprise, right? Because it's not a big leap to go from here to even if it's still Linux-based or maybe Windows-based platforms that are running on digits as well.
Yeah.
The first question I have as an IT person is, how do I manage this thing and how do I secure this thing?
Right.
So there's some stuff that I think from an enterprise ability perspective, I'd like to learn more about before saying this thing's going to take off in the enterprise. But from a pure performance perspective, oh my goodness, this thing is incredible. Yeah. Paul, did you want to jump in?
I haven't read the paper on it yet. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's yeah, Paul, it's a little, this is my kid's wallet.
It's like a Mac Mini kind of size.
It's about this form factor. It's about
even smaller,
half an inch tall. It looks like the old Wise Thin clients that you used to see inside of doctors' offices and such, as far as design goes. And it's got so much computational power in there. It's beyond belief, and the kind of potential of it is just limitless. The question is, how do you make it more usable across the enterprise and manageable across the enterprise? Those are the two things I want to figure out with it.
Yeah.
Cool.
We digress. Yeah. All good.
I like that.
Good.
All right. The next topic sounds like the title to my autobiography, Entangled Ambitions. What might this be?
Yeah, entangled. It's either quantum or math.
Of course it is.
IonQ just acquired a new company called Qubitech, and Qubitech's involved with quantum networking, and that's important to IonQ and their scaling plans to scale these QPUs, quantum processing units, scale together and then scale quantum computers back together again using networking. So long term, it's important to them. But Qubitech also brings a number. I think they've got 160 patents that they bring with that acquisition, and so that puts IonQ to like over 600 patents in their portfolio.
Holy heck!
So it's pretty valuable. Quantum networking has got a good future, good business case. So I think they're going to do quite well with this. They also get something called EPB quantum network. It's one of the first quantum networks in the U.S. And they'll be able to use photonic interconnects to scale their processors together and scale quantum computers together. So you might have one giant quantum computer that's, parts of it in different parts of the country. So IonQ recently got a pretty good size Air Force contract, $54 million with the Air Force. So they're doing quite well. They're a public company now, and the stock has come up quite a bit since they went public. They're gonna the system is located in Chattanooga, where IonQ is in Seattle. So IonQ will also get a fiber optic network. It's got a lot of, dedicated dark fiber with it, so they've got a lot of capacity. So looks like a good deal for them, and it should move them up the chain. They might become a leader in quantum networking. So.
Hey, Paul, just in 30 seconds or less, because I know this could devolve into like we could go down a rat's nest with this, but when you say quantum networking, again, for listeners and for me, or for viewers and for me, when you see, fast forward X amount of years and quantum is kind of more mainstay in the marketplace, is the standard kind of networking we have today that interconnects everything together, does that support quantum? Or when you say quantum networking, is that an entirely different backbone with entirely different
That'd be a different backbone. The advantage quantum networking has got is that if somebody tries to tamper with it, they disrupt the quantum, basically the quantum state, and it's like impossible to hack. So China is very heavily involved in quantum networking. In fact, I think they still hold the world record for quantum networking, but it looks like a viable business. Quantum is also involved in quantum networking. There's a whole bunch of companies that are involved in it. So.
But the backbone is that you mentioned fiber. Are we still looking at kind of moving things over light kind of thing?
Yeah, that's one of the advantages of being able to network with light-based fiber, essentially. Okay. So you can do a lot of stuff with quantum over that. Very
cool. Very cool. Will, are you going out and buying your quantum computer? So you can
I am. I was just doing it right now on Amazon.
Ordering it?
I spent way too much money over the holidays, so I'm giving Amazon a rest in the month of January.
Don't order it on Temu.
No, Temu. Yeah, my mother-in-law, she learned her lesson on Temu. It's like, Mom, it's a Chinese company. I think they're probably trying to steal your information. And then all of a sudden, her credit card got charged $500 somewhere in Shenzhen, China.
Go figure. I have a friend who's binging on Temu right now. I'm like, dude, relax. It's like the Walmart of anyway. All right. Let's move on to our second to last topic, Dell embracing OCP. I'm not sure if I spoke on this one before, but we published a paper. It'll be in the show notes. This is interesting. So, everyone or folks who are familiar with Open Compute, the Open Compute project, understand that, this thing was started back, 14, 15 years ago by Facebook to try and bring white boxes into the data center or set standards around kind of going with non-OEM type servers, right? To get standards around quality, interoperability, so on and so forth. OCP has really evolved over the years into something that's delivering a lot of value into the hyperscale space. And they, a few years back, they released something called MI&S, which stands for Modular Hardware System. And it's a way for OEMs, for kind of the bigger server vendors, to more easily deploy new technology from silicon providers, from companies like AMD, Intel, ARM, so on and so forth. And so what they do is, typically the way it works, I'm going to go very quickly through this, but typically the way it works is, if I am AMD and I launch a new version of EPYC, I go to HPE, and if HPE has 6 server platforms with me, they have to do 6 individual server designs that account for that specific CPU. The next generation comes along, they have to do it again. Next generation comes along, they have to do it again. And it becomes a very costly and time-consuming exercise. With MI&S, it simplifies the process a lot. It enables, by the way, those are motherboard designs they have to do. It enables AMD to create, or somebody or company acting on AMD's behalf, to create its own processor platform, if you will, that can interconnect into a standard motherboard. So I, as HPE, or I, as Dell, when AMD comes out and Intel comes out with their new processors, I don't have to build countless number of motherboard designs to account for these. I can build one standard motherboard that meets the needs of the market for generation 12, generation 16, whatever it might be, and just plug that CPU module into my motherboard, and presto whammo, I've got my new generation platform that's powered by the latest CPU. Reduces my cost a lot as an OEM provider. It enables me to take advantage of the newest technology from AMD, Intel, NVIDIA, ARM, so on and so forth, a lot more quickly. And it simplifies life for the silicon providers as well.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, that lowers the cost of servers that are being sold into the marketplace. Really cool. Dell's the first OEM, like big server vendor, to embrace this kind of new model of designing servers. It's in the R670 and the R7, or I'm sorry, R660? No, R670, R770. It's in those two servers first, which means they're Intel based. The AMD version is quick to come out as well. And they're going to continue to build these. And I suspect you're eventually going to see the entire PowerEdge platform running on this OCP kind of model, just because it's a cost and efficiency savings for Dell, which means they can turn that, or they can pass that on to their customers. But really cool. It doesn't limit them innovating at the motherboard level. So they'll still be able to add, cool stuff in from a security manageability perspective, or even acceleration perspective. But just really, it allows them to more quickly turn servers. Also allows them to compete more in the cloud space with the ODMs, the white box vendors. So just a really cool and a nod to Dell for what they're doing. Really cool kind of movement that's going on. I'm curious to see kind of if this does take kind of more of a broad adoption across the full portfolio. I'll be curious to see when that happens. They just launched their Gen 16 stuff, or G16 stuff. So I would guess that you'd start to see it more in 17. So anyway.
Hey, Matt, what's the OCP secret sauce? Because, are they doing all the heavy lifting from a validation standpoint across CPUs? Or
Yeah. There's always going to be some validation that has to take place at the OEM level. But so when you think about like the physical interfaces, the electrical interfaces, the manageability interfaces, all of those kind of interfaces that have to take place between one module and another, those are all baked into specs, right? Power supply support, all of that kind of gets baked into the OCP spec. So it takes all of that work out of the servers. I can tell you, from being somebody who has an AMD and worked with the OEMs to bring CPUs into their server platforms, the amount of NRE, or non-recurring engineering budget, that we had to put into bringing platforms to life,
significant,
tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And that's a co-investment that we make with the OEMs, right?
Right.
I'm not saying that goes away, but it's greatly reduced. And the amount of time that goes into designing every platform, from motherboard to, from motherboards that can support these CPUs from an electrical and physical perspective, that all goes away as well. So it's goodness all the way around. And ultimately it makes its way into the enterprise IT department that is deploying these things, right? And buying them. So.
Cool. I like it.
Yeah.
It's not surprising that Dell would embrace this, right? Because Dell's all about supply chain efficiency and
yeah.
And they're an innovator, but I can say this because I'm a former employee, but they're very much about leverage standards and do things as least costly as possible. So.
Sure. Well, with that said, the upfront cost of activating this is going to be a little bit higher, right? Because you got to you got to change a lot of things in the back end to make this model work. So there's an upfront investment. Long term, it definitely delivers that value. And to me, this plays right into Dell you talk about supply chain, as a company that really gets supply chain and how to make supply chain work for them.
Yeah.
Maybe better than any other company out there. So yeah, it makes perfect sense they would be doing this. All right. Sorry, I don't mean to go too far. Let's go into, we've been talking a lot of tech. Let's move into something that's a little bit more interesting, maybe, and that is kind of the getting to know. And the topic we're going to hit on, we're going to give our predictions for the college football playoff game tonight between Texas and Ohio State. I don't know if anybody watched Penn State and Notre Dame last night.
Exciting game, really exciting game.
Yeah, lots of fun. Notre Dame came out on top, but a lot of people would argue that the real national championship game is being played tonight between Texas and Ohio State. Not to disrespect the others, but I think I can guess where you guys are leaning toward based on what you're wearing. But let's start with you and what you think is going to happen. And if you want to give a score prediction, go ahead.
Yeah, well, my prediction, and by the way, I'm not a huge Notre Dame fan, but the potential of Texas playing Notre Dame for the national championship is huge from my perspective. There's a history between the two teams. In fact, in my curio cabinet, I have a signed football from Texas when they beat Notre Dame in the national championship in 1969. Wow. Fred Akers was the assistant coach. Darrell Royal was the head coach.
Wow.
Texas, it's been a challenge. Our offense has been inconsistent all season. We've had great games. We've had not so great games. We've had great running games. We've had inconsistent running games, like with Arizona State University. We are the underdog. We were projected, to not be the underdog when this big dance started. But I do believe our defense will show up. Our defense has been strong this year. And I do believe Quinn Ewers plays a complete game tonight, and we establish the run game. It's going to be a tough game. Ohio State is peaking right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so our fearless leader, Patrick Moorhead, is an OSU fan. But I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna predict that Texas is gonna win. Final score is gonna be 28-24.
28-24. There you go. You heard it here first. All right, Paul. What do you want to weigh in on this?
I happen to like both teams. I lived in Ohio for a number of years, and but I also like Texas. I'm going 21-14 Texas, and Arch Manning will play in the last quarter.
Wow. Okay. That
even from the guy wearing the crimson.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. So here's my take. I have no direct connection to either, other than my wife is a Big Ten alum and has a history in the Big Ten and hates Ohio State. My son went to a Big Ten school for a couple of years. One of my sons. I don't have a tie to either, except I live in Austin. I would have 3 or 4 weeks ago, I would have said Texas will beat Ohio State in a game, put them on the field, and the speed is going to beat Ohio State and just all the raw talent they have. And then I saw what Ohio State did to Oregon.
Wow, it was impressive.
Oh my gosh.
It was impressive.
And that scared me. And by the way, for what it's worth, I don't like Ohio State. I don't like them at all. I don't have any dog in the hunt, so to speak, but I just don't like them. And it goes back to Urban Meyer and how much I hated him. And I forget that the guy that old coach that had to forfeit a bunch of wins.
Woody Hayes punching the player.
No, not Woody Hayes. Him too, but it was the gentleman. Maybe he was just before Urban Meyer, who ran a really crooked program.
Yeah,
I can't remember his name. He came from a smaller school in Ohio. Anyway, but I can't get past the talent that Ohio State has.
It's fair.
And what Day did and game planned for Oregon. And now they have Chip Kelly running the offense, who, had all those incredible offenses at Oregon. I just can't get past Ohio State. And I'm going to have to go with Ohio State. And I'm going to go with 31-14 as
You're killing me, Kimball. You're killing me.
I don't say it because I want to. I live in Austin.
Yeah.
If anything, my geographic loyalty is to UT.
Right.
And man, I just can't look past what Ohio State has done. So
it's going to be a great game. I'm looking so forward to it. I just can't wait.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Anyway. All right. Hey, listen, we went a little bit long today, but fun first podcast in beginning of the year. Thank you so much, guys, for taking the time to chat on so many fun and interesting topics. Just a reminder, if you're listening and watching at home or from wherever you're watching and listening, whether you like or not, please hit the like button and follow us. If you don't like us and you want to say negative things, I think Will Townsend's Twitter handle is in our show notes, so you can point everything at him. And lastly, do not take anything we say. We say this about 1 million times. Do not take anything we say as investment advice. If you do, shame on you. But anyway, great conversation. Have fun tonight watching the game, guys. Stay warm, and I guess we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.
See ya.